Welcome to the premiere of WCWP Reports. I'm Elise Person, and this program is dedicated to bringing you interesting and compelling stories produced by journalism and broadcasting students of Long Island University's Post campus. This week, Dylan Ballack brings us the story of a nurse practitioner on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis. Jillian Mehta shares the story of two student volunteers helping their communities. Shannon Miller and Jada Butler look at the reopening of Long Island and New York. And Andrew Scarpacci reports on the reopening of the NHL, NASCAR, and Major League Baseball. Long Island has finally reopened for business, but residents remain divided over economic uncertainty. Shannon Miller reports.
Long Island residents adjusted to a new normal Wednesday as they turned a page on COVID-19. Nassau and Suffolk counties reopened under Phase 1 guidelines just as the nation reached 100,000 deaths. Data shows the state has maintained a slow but steady decline in new cases, deaths, and hospitalizations since stay-at-home orders were put in place. New York is the last state to lift its regulations as it has the highest number of cases and deaths in the nation. Phase 1 allows non-essential construction, manufacturing, fishing, farming, and curbside retail to resume. Governor Andrew Cuomo insists that state and county officials are prepared to monitor the reopening, stating that county executives must immediately jump on any new case clusters by utilizing contact tracers and searching for geographic commonalities.
The question was always, how smart are you on the reopening? How intelligent are you on the reopening? How informed are you? How disciplined are you on the reopening? Because that determines how successful the reopening is.
Long Island residents are divided over the decision to reopen. Some are fearful of an uptick in cases, while others have anxiously waited to return to work due to economic worries. News 12 anchor Kevin Vesey visited a scene in Comac last week where anti-lockdown protesters demonstrated frustration with the lengthy shutdown. Vesey said the level of anger directed at the media outlet was alarming.
You stopped airing the Trump briefings and you keep airing Cuomo briefings. Go home, you fake news.
You are the enemy of the people.
You let so much crap fly on your Facebook page. It's disgusting. You're disgusting.
Kevin, tell the truth, Kevin. Come on. Fake news is not essential.
Many demonstrators were unmasked. According to Governor Cuomo, wearing a mask is a key factor in continuing the downward trend. Residents must continue to wash their hands, wear masks, and sanitize to avoid another wave of the virus. While many Long Islanders are pushing to get back to work, Governor Cuomo warned that the state's economy is sure to take a downturn.
We talk about the normal and the new normal. I think you're going to see the same thing with the economy. I don't think it comes right back to where it was. And I think there will be winners and losers in this new economy. I think the top end of the economy will be fine. They always are. It always works out for them.
As of today, over 40 million Americans have applied for unemployment since the pandemic began. We've lost thousands of small businesses that are just not going to reopen their doors, Governor Cuomo said. For WCWP Reports, I'm Shannon Miller.
Long Island officials double down on social distancing to prepare for reopening. Jada Butler reports.
A rise in temperature across the tri-state area is tempting some people to leave the safety of their homes to enjoy the summertime weather. All regions of New York underwent Phase 1 of reopening Wednesday, with the exception of New York City. With a mass of citizens rushing outdoors, businesses and local governments are working to ensure social distancing laws are being regulated. One of these measures includes banning New York City's 8 million residents from local Long Island beaches. This comes after Mayor Bill de Blasio refused to open New York City beaches leading into Memorial Day weekend. Nassau County Executive Laura Curran said New York City has density issues that Long Island doesn't have. She told CBSN, "I want to make sure our residents get the benefit of their beach." Another safety measure in place are new protocols for lifeguards. Point Lookout head lifeguard Mike Romano said, "If a lifeguard makes a rescue or makes patient contact, it's going to be mandatory that they take a shower." Flat toe and surfboard rescues are other techniques that can be used to minimize contact. COVID-19 concierge staff will be present to remind beachgoers of social distancing rules. Additional precautions include beaches capping at 50% capacity, every other space in parking lots will be blocked, and beachgoers must keep towels 10 feet apart. Nassau County officials are requiring private beach clubs to follow the 50% capacity guidelines as well. Some businesses in New York are also set to reopen, according to Governor Andrew Cuomo in a briefing on Wednesday.
You wouldn't reopen everything immediately. You would do it in phases, and you would phase it by the most important businesses, the most essential businesses that pose the lowest risk first. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Roosevelt Field Mall in East Garden City, the largest shopping mall in Long Island and the second largest in the state of New York, is one of many retailers that are resuming operations under Phase 1 guidelines. According to the mall's website, there are 13 businesses offering curbside pickup between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Shoppers can check in with their favorite stores for exact hours before heading out. Retailers will be able to lift limitations on services in Phase 2 of the reopening, which includes professional services, administrative support, and real estate. Phase 3 reopens restaurants and food services, and Phase 4 will include arts, sports, recreation, and education. Each phase is separated by 2 weeks, while infection rates are being closely monitored. Regions are monitored by a 7-point metric system: decline in total hospitalizations, decline in deaths, new hospitalizations, hospital bed capacity, ICU bed capacity, diagnostic testing capacity, and contact tracing capacity. Those wishing to follow along can track the spread and decline of COVID-19 on the state's regional monitoring dashboard. For WCWP Reports, I'm Jada Butler.
COVID-19 has affected young people in ways we would not expect. Dylan Valek reports.
With the spread of COVID-19, many businesses have chosen to have their employees work from home out of fear of spreading the virus. However, that luxury isn't open to everyone, as some services can only be done in person. Christina Capel has to go into work several times a week, wearing a mask and other protective equipment for upwards of 12 hours as she works to help those in need. Capel is an interventional neurology nurse practitioner at St. Francis Hospital. Ever since the outbreak of COVID, her workload has increased.
Definitely since the outbreak of COVID-19, I'm seeing a lot more patients, since I work in neurointervention, coming in with strokes, and a lot more patients that are coming in that are very young. So usually we don't see patient populations coming in their 30s and 40s, even as young as 28-year-olds I had recently, or 22-year-olds. With strokes, and we are seeing it connected to the COVID and the coronavirus, unfortunately.
Capel is also putting herself at risk of exposure to the virus. Due to her work involving emergency patients, she often doesn't find out whether a patient has COVID until during or after a procedure.
In emergency situations where I'm working with these patients coming in having strokes and they need emergency thrombectomies, it's hard immediately to know, even if we're risking ourselves or if that patient is at risk for having COVID. So it is becoming something, luckily, that we're seeing less now with the virus, kind of winding down. But we definitely have been having to take extra cautious procedures with wearing PPE and just make sure we're getting the swabs done efficiently and quickly so we can make sure that we're protecting ourselves as well as the patient.
Ever since the outbreak, Capel has noticed how appreciative people have been of her work.
I do feel there's become more of a warmth and just such an overabundance of appreciation from everybody around, which is really, really unnecessary, because I'm doing this because I want to do this, and this is my job, and I am happy to be there for these patients during this time. But it's definitely really nice to get that thank you. It means a lot. Just a thank you goes a long way.
This has been Dylan Valek, WCWP Reports.
College students on Long Island are finding ways to help volunteer during the pandemic. Jillian Mehta reports.
Students stuck at home during this pandemic have been using their free time to help those in need by making and delivering masks to hospitals, nursing homes, and even personal and special requests. Cassandra Sorbonne, a freshman fashion merchandising major at Long Island University, is working with Amuse, a luxury fashion company, to make masks out of old dust bags.
So Amuse is a company who sells discounted designer goods, and they realized how many dust bags they had in their warehouse, and they sought volunteers to make the masks. What they did is, you DM'd them, and, they sent you a link to buy it, it was free and everything. And then they also gave you, a free return label to send back to them. They have donated money and masks to Direct Relief, which is a charity.
Helping out during this quarantine has recently become even more important to Sorbonne, as she recently lost her grandfather to the virus. She believes that staying home and making masks if possible is the best way for students to help. Ashley Herkimer, a senior digital design major at Long Island University, has been working with a Facebook group called Strong Island. The group was started by a couple in Huntington who took the initiative to start making and delivering masks to hospitals and nursing homes during this pandemic.
I joined the group and I was like, I don't know how to make masks, but I can help deliver them. And I gave her a bunch of names of towns that I can, drive to. It's been really fun.
Getting involved in helping out is a lot more than just making masks.
I definitely think there's a lot people can do that they don't realize. I was in this group for a really long time feeling kind of helpless because I didn't know how to make a mask. But then I saw there was a link that they were like, oh, you could sign up to be a driver. So I think if you reach out to your community and see where everyone is lacking and definitely try and do your part and don't ask for help and then ask to help, because a lot of people don't know how to ask for help. So I always think of it as, when was the last time you asked for help and someone said no?
It was important to Herkimer to help out during this time because her mom works at a hospital that was quickly running out of essentials when this pandemic first hit. Herkimer has successfully donated more than 100 masks to the hospital her mom works at, as well as donated many to her grandfather's nursing home community. For WCWP, I'm Jillian Mehta.
Professional sports leagues have been trying to reopen along with the rest of the economy. Andrew Scarpacci reports.
NASCAR was the first sport to start back up again amid the coronavirus pandemic. The Real Heroes 400 on May 17th was the first sporting event since March 11th. The race was won by Kevin Harvick, which was win number 50 of his career. The biggest story of this race, however, had to be the return of Ryan Newman. The 41-year-old had one of the worst crashes seen in recent NASCAR history during the Daytona 500 on February 17th. Walking out of the hospital 48 hours later, he did not return to the track until NASCAR did as well. NASCAR legend 44-year-old Jimmy Johnson has yet to win a race as he has had a few really bad breaks in this recent stretch, such as crashing in Stage 1 of NASCAR's first race back and finishing second at the Coca-Cola 600 on Memorial Day weekend. The NHL announced on Tuesday, May 26th, they will be returning to play in the near future, with an automatic conclusion of the regular season and expanding the playoffs from 16 to 24 teams. The top 4 teams in each conference will play for seeding, while the other 16 teams will play a best-of-5 series to determine who the final 16 teams will be. From there on, they will continue with the traditional playoff format, with all series being a best-of-7. The playoffs up until the Stanley Cup Finals will be played at neutral sites, one for the East and one for the West. Neither have been picked yet. And Major League Baseball is pretty much cleared to play from a health perspective, but the league owners and the Players Association cannot come up with a proposal to get the season up and running. The players want a prorated salary, which would give them an equal percentage of pay for the number of games they play, since the season will most likely be shortened. The owners initially agreed to this back on March 31st, but are now saying this was when fans would be attending. So from the owners' perspective, they will be getting less revenue per game and therefore cannot pay players the same amount they would based on a prorated salary, and are now offering a revenue split. Matt Vasgersian of ESPN and MLB Network believes there have been many more plans to get baseball back up and running than beyond the few that were released to the public over these last few months.
I know they probably pursued a lot more alternative plans than we were led on to believe as fans. And, not everything gets out. So they could have kicked the tires on something. A couple days later, found that it was unmanageable, and they scrapped it for the next thing. And we'll never know all those details, perhaps ever.
Vasgersian also believes no matter what the outcome will be, this year will be different in many ways, and embracing change to the game will be inevitable for at least this year.
You don't want to hear talk of changing the game. Well, then this isn't going to be for you. But I think even that fan would understand that this environment means you have to embrace whatever is going to help the season get out of the gates, period.
With a new collective bargaining agreement up for negotiation in 2021, a lockout would be worst-case scenario and could mean no Major League Baseball until 2022. For WCWP Reports, I'm Andrew Scarpacci.
Thank you for tuning in to the premiere of WCWP Reports. For LIU Public Radio, I'm Elise Person.